Today, we're going to dive into a story that has become this global symbol of loyalty. It's the true tale of a dog named Hachiko. And, it's a journey that starts with a simple, everyday routine and somehow ends up as a legend, one that's literally set in stone.
Okay, look at this number. 9 years, 9 months, and 15 days. Just let that sink in for a second. This isn't just some random amount of time. It is the exact duration of a vigil. It's precisely how long a dog named Hachiko waited, day in and day out, for his best friend to come home.
So right away, that brings up the big question, doesn't it? Why? Why would a dog wait for almost a decade at a super busy Tokyo train station? What kind of friendship, what kind of bond creates that level of devotion? To really understand the wait, we have to go all the way back to the beginning.
See, the story of the long wait is really the story of the bond that came before it. To get why Hachiko was so devoted, we first have to meet the man he was waiting for. We need to see how this incredible connection between them was forged in the first place.
All right, so picture this. Hachiko, a purebred Akita puppy, is born on a farm way out in Akita Prefecture. In January of 1924, he gets sent on this long, rough train ride to Shibuya, Tokyo. His new owner's Professor Hidesaburo Ueno, a pretty well-known agricultural scientist. The little guy was actually really sick and weak from the journey, but Professor Ueno personally nursed him back to health, and right there, that's where this deep connection starts to form.
And their friendship was really built around this daily ritual they had. Every single morning, Professor Uno would walk to Shibuya Station to catch his train, and Hachiko would walk right alongside him. And then every evening, like clockwork, Hachiko would leave the house all by himself, head back to the station, and just wait there to greet the professor's train. They became this familiar, really heartwarming sight for everybody in the neighborhood.
But here's the thing that's truly remarkable, maybe even a little heartbreaking. Look at how short their time together actually was. From the day Hachiko arrived to the day the professor died, it was only about 15 months. That's it. A really short period of time, but it was obviously more than enough to forge a bond that would, quite literally, last a lifetime.
And this, of course, is where the story takes its tragic turn. That beautiful daily routine is just shattered. And what comes next is the start of Hachiko's lonely 10-year vigil that would turn him into a legend. So on this one fateful day in May, Professor Ueno was in the middle of a lecture when he collapsed. He'd had a brain hemorrhage and he died right there at the university. He never came home. Hachiko showed up at the station that evening, just like always, but his master never got off that train. And Hachiko, not understanding what happened, he just came back the next day, and the day after that, and the day after that.
Now, for years, Hachiko's story wasn't celebrated at all. In fact, it was the opposite. He was mostly seen as a stray, just a nuisance hanging around the station. Some commuters and vendors would actually kick him or pour water on him to get him to leave. He put up with this kind of mistreatment for years, which just makes his unwavering perseverance all the more powerful, right? His loyalty was absolute, even when the world around him was often pretty cruel.
So how on earth did this mistreated stray dog become a national hero? Well, it took one person, the right person, to recognize him and to understand the profound story that was unfolding at that station every single day. The big turning point came thanks to a man named Hirokichi Saito. He'd been a student of Professor Ueno's and was actually an expert on the Akita breed. In 1932, 7 years into Hachiko's wait, Saito spotted the dog at the station. He recognized him, followed him, and eventually learned his incredible story from Ueno's old gardener. Saito knew right then that he had to share this with the world. Saito wrote an article, and it got published in the Asahi Shimbun, which was a huge national newspaper. I mean, just look at that headline. It's absolutely heartbreaking. The story just grabbed the nation's heart. Almost overnight, Hachiko went from being this anonymous stray to a household name.
People started calling him Chuken Hachiko, which means faithful dog Hachiko. He became more than a dog. He was a living symbol of loyalty. And in Japanese culture, that's a huge deal. It brings to mind the kind of unwavering devotion of a samurai to their master. People actually started traveling to Shibuya just to see him, to bring him food, and to just sit with him while he waited.
Hachiko's wait did eventually come to an end, of course, but his story was really just beginning to become immortal. His death was really the transition from a living legend to an everlasting one.
After nearly a whole decade of waiting, Hachiko passed away. He was found on a street near the one place he had made his home, Shibuya Station. And in death, he was finally reunited with the one person he had waited for so patiently.
His ashes were buried in Aoyama Cemetery, right next to the grave of his beloved Professor Ueno.
You know, even Hachiko's famous bronze statue has a pretty dramatic history of its own. The first one was put up in 1934, and get this, Hachiko himself was the guest of honor at the ceremony. But then during World War II, it was melted down for the war effort. After the war, a new statue was made, and it was unveiled in 1948, and it's that second statue that still stands today as one of Tokyo's most famous meeting spots.
And his legacy, well, it's everywhere. The station exit is named for him. His story's been made into movies all over the world. You can even go see his preserved form in a national museum. But maybe the most touching tribute of all is a new statue that was put up at the University of Tokyo in 2015. It finally gives Hachiko the reunion he waited a lifetime for, showing him jumping up joyfully to greet his master at long last.
You know, the story of Hachiko is so simple, but it's also incredibly profound. On the surface, it's just about a dog waiting for his owner, but it really makes you think about bigger things, like love, devotion, and memory. And so it kind of leaves us with a question, right? In a world that moves so incredibly fast, what can we learn from a creature who is defined by his incredible, unwavering patience?